This is an absolute heist for the Golden State Warriors. Folks, after 2.5 months, the Jonathan Kuminga drama saga has finally come to an end. What's going on, everybody? I'm Houston Mo. You're watching Warriors Digest. Folks, it's the big one. We've been talking about this for so long on the channel. It feels like an eternity, but finally a signing. Jonathan Kuminga returning to the Golden State Warriors. We're going to waste no more time getting into the video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss out on content on the channel as we continue to break down this entire situation and the resolution that has finally arrived. As I said, wasting no more time today. Shams with a big one. Jonathan Kuminga, ending a summer-long stalemate, has agreed to a 2-year, $48.5 million contract to return to the Golden State Warriors. Agent Aaron Turner, everybody's favorite agent in America, tells ESPN the deal has a team option designed for the contract to be ripped up and negotiated next summer. So we'll get into all the rest of the news. We have so much information from Shams, from Aaron Turner, from Jonathan Kuminga about this whole situation. But what you see there initially is the resolution. We have a signing. Jonathan Kuminga is returning to the Golden State Warriors, and for me as a Warriors fan, I am absolutely hyped. We'll get to some Twitter reactions already from the fan base and how people are feeling, ups and downs, highs and lows. People are a little bit all over the place, but I tell you what, I am stoked. We have so much information from Shams, not just that he's signed, but information regarding exactly what the deal means for both sides as well. Through negotiations between Mike Dunleavy Jr. and Turner from July to September, Golden State ultimately increased its offer by a total of $8 million. You saw those initial deals were around $20 to $22 million a year, and now ultimately this deal getting up to around 24.5. Golden State, as I said, upped it by $8 million over the course of the last 2.5 months in the 2-year framework and guaranteed Kuminga approximately $15 million more than his qualifying offer would have for this season. So we've been back and forth. Is he going to sign the team option deal of 2 years, guaranteed around $24 million, or is he going to bet on himself with the qualifying offer? And as a fan of Jonathan Kuminga, I am so happy that he is getting this guaranteed money because he is so deserving of it. We've been a little bit back and forth about this. Jonathan Kuminga and his camp have been a little bit of a diva show, trying to demand a lot of this money. But I will say, I'm happy for Kuminga. He's worth more than $7.9 million. There's an opportunity. He wouldn't have played that well. He would have gotten injured, and his market would have been absolutely nothing next summer. So I am happy that we found resolution and happy for the young 22-year-old in Jonathan Kuminga that he signed a good deal returning to the team. So moving forward with this information, Kuminga chose this 2-year deal over 3 years and $75 million so he can maintain a higher level of control over his immediate future. And that's ultimately what Jonathan Kuminga wanted. Obviously, he wants money, but Jonathan Kuminga wants to be a star on a winning team, and to do that, you have to have power. The Warriors never wavered on the team option frameworks, and now both sides understand the likelihood of exploring trades when Kuminga is eligible. I believe January 15th is when Jonathan Kuminga will be available to be ditched out elsewhere. And like I said, I'm happy for both sides. The Warriors had to give up a little bit more money in order to get Kuminga back to the team, but now we have the opportunity for Jonathan Kuminga to show out, not only to improve his trade value. It's sort of a win-win at this situation. Jonathan Kuminga gets paid, the Warriors bring him back and get a great wing contributor, a guy that's shown young flashes of having an incredibly high ceiling. But you also have the understanding that if Jonathan Kuminga plays really well, not only will he build up his market for the Warriors to get a better deal for him in the future if they do want to trade him away, that also gets their return to be significantly better, which is exciting if you're a Warriors fan and you think, hey, we're using this money, we're using this contract to be renegotiated later to ship him off elsewhere. So how are the fans feeling early on after finding out about this deal here tonight on September 30th? Well, this was always where it was headed. Despite all the posturing about the qualifying offer, credit to JK and his camp for using every ounce of leverage they had up until the very end. Credit to the Warriors for calling his bluff about the QO. And I'm inclined to agree with this take. I think you always wanted to believe in Jonathan Kuminga and Aaron Turner, and that there was a legitimate chance of him signing the qualifying offer. We've seen it with another player already in this offseason elsewhere in the NBA. So you wanted to believe that that was a legitimate thing, but you just wonder from a 22-year-old's perspective, $24 million guaranteed is a lot more, as Shams said, than $7.9 million. So he's guaranteeing himself $15 million more this year, and still the opportunity that if he does ultimately want to be somewhere else in the future, they can find a way to make that work. But I got to tell you, what a job by Mike Dunleavy Jr. What a job by, as this Warriors fan says, calling his bluff. They hung in tight. They did not waver at all. Sure, they had to give up a little bit more money, ultimately going up by $8 million throughout the last couple of months. But with where this Warriors team is at, where the organization is at from a financial standpoint, that is way more worth it than the alternatives. And I love to see the fact that Jonathan Kuminga is coming back to the team, and the Warriors got exactly what they wanted. They got Jonathan Kuminga returning to the team on a solid contract, but they also, Mike Dunleavy Jr. and the rest of the front office, showed a little bit of their stature and saying, we're not going to waver just because you're waving these deals in front of us. They called their bluff perfectly, and I love to see it because Mike Dunleavy Jr. has been under some scrutiny for a little while, and I love to see him flexing his muscles a little bit and saying, hey, I know what I'm doing as a GM. He made great signings and draft picks last year as well, so we should have known. I mean, this guy knows what he's doing. Next take, 2-year deal, team option cheap. Mike Dunleavy absolutely cooked. Man, wow. I'm inclined to believe and agree with this too. I think Mike Dunleavy Jr. did an excellent job. I think what we saw from Steve Kerr, we'll get to a quote from him as well, was that some of these things feel like a really big deal in the offseason because we didn't make any other signings. All this stuff was up in the air. What's going to happen? But at the end of the day, when you put pen to paper for Jonathan Kuminga, he signs a deal and he signs a contract that is a good potential for him to improve, make some money now. But at the end of the day, the front office and Mike Dunleavy in particular did a fantastic job bringing this to a resolution that favors the Warriors. Some people are still going to say he's overpaid. Some people are still going to say that he's going to lose us games or that he's a locker room cancer, all these types of things. But I think from a front office standpoint and from a fan perspective, you have to be really happy with where this ended up for the Warriors. Shams also said he'll likely be traded before the end of the season. Now the Warriors have to play him to optimize his trade value. And so, sorry, this isn't Shams. This is another Warriors fan on Twitter. I have that incorrectly on the bottom. This is another Warriors fan on Twitter saying that it's likely he'll be traded before the end of the season. Now the Warriors have to play him to optimize his trade value. And this is sort of goes in line with what I was saying about it being a win-win. Now you have the opportunity to build up his trade value, get a better return for him in the future. It was sort of a similar situation to the qualifying offer because Jonathan Kuminga was going to have to play well either way. He was going to have to bring up his trade value, or he was going to have to build himself up to be an enticing asset in a super saturated market next summer. And so now we're at a point where the Warriors not only get him back to the team, sign him to an exciting offer, but you also get the understanding that Jonathan Kuminga wants to be valued around the league. In order for him to do that, he has to play well. He's already got a little bit of a bad look on his reputation after this whole saga. So now going into the season, he said in a quote a couple weeks ago, he said, if they give me a good offer, that was with the player option. Again, the Warriors did not budge. They said, we're doing the team option. But he did say if he gets a good deal, he will commit to winning and commit to his full potential for the team. And I hope that Jonathan Kuminga is being truthful about that. Steve Kerr and his relationship, turns out it's doing okay. Turns out those reports that things were a little bit rocky may not be totally truthful because Jonathan Kuminga returning to the team and seems to be excited about it. And I can't wait for him to actually hit the podium and talk to us a little bit about where his headspace is at heading into the 2025-2026 season. Moving forward, we've been through a lot bigger deals than this, says Steve Kerr. He says, I'll never begrudge a player for wanting to get the best contract he can. I've been talking to Mike Dunleavy just to get updates, and he feels pretty good that we should get this resolved in the next couple of days. So that was this morning from Steve Kerr. And this is just another proof of saying, hey, trust the guys that trust what our organization is telling you. Steve Kerr's telling us, hey, this is a situation that's going to get resolved. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's going to look like a lot's going on, but truthfully, the Warriors front office knows what we're doing, and we're going to get it handled. And that's exactly what happened. Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, they were all asked about this yesterday on NBA Media Day, and all three of them said, hey, it's a situation that'll get resolved. I'm confident in the team. JK will be here. He'll show up. He'll play well. He'll play hard. He'll commit to the team. And that is exactly what is happening, which is just what I love to see from our veterans, proving that they know exactly what is going on, as does our front office. Next, Kuminga from Brett Siegel remains on a trade-friendly contract and can instantly become a free agent again in 2026 due to that team option to negotiate a new long-term contract at a new price with money being non-existent this offseason. Assuming Al Horford signs the full $5.7 million taxpayer mid-level exception and Melton's deal is in fact a 2-year minimum, the Warriors will have enough cap space to sign Steph Curry to their 15th spot. However, they will need to wait a few days into the season. So this was the next question. You've got this starting lineup. These are the guys that you're going to have. These four, for sure Steph, for sure Jimmy, for sure Al, for sure Draymond. Then the rest of the roster starts to fill out a little bit. I was worried, really worried about the wing depth, but now that Kuminga is coming back, he fills into a perfect bench position. I don't see Kuminga starting with this unit. I don't see that we have enough spacing on the floor with Kuminga in that spot. I don't think the three-point shooting is where it needs to be with these guys on the floor. But everyone's question, is Seth Curry a possibility now, because that's the one thing people have wanted to see even more than Kuminga returning to the team was a Steph Curry and Seth Curry legitimate Splash Brothers team up from both of those people. And now we have the reports that the money's awkward at this point because of all the deals that have happened now with Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton, but there is still a chance for it to happen. From Shams, the Warriors won't have the room to sign a 15th player to start the season because they are now just $2.03 million below the second apron, but they will be able to sign a 15th player, potentially free agent Seth Curry, beginning on November 15th. So, unfortunate that Seth Curry can't immediately come to the team. One of those things where you want to have absolutely everything to fall into place, and it feels like if there were 4 blocks and we wanted to knock all of them down, feels like we got all of them and maybe a little bit of this one too. Like it feels like everything that needed to happen is happening. You just want that icing on the cake. If we can find a way to include Seth Curry, add him to this roster come November 15th, that would just be another thing that would get me super excited. And here's the deal, folks. He doesn't move the needle incredibly. Seth Curry's not going to come in and be a 20-point scorer. He's not going to be a 25-minute guy off the bench. But I do think in streaky nights where we need him to come in for load management purposes, the older guys need a rest night, I do think Seth Curry can come in and be a very solid role player for this team. I hope I said Seth Curry again. Anytime I'm making a video about either of the Curry brothers, I always swap their names. In 25 years, I'll probably call Cannon Curry Steph Curry when he's playing in the league down the road, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Now let's look at this roster, right? So we start to have a little bit of an understanding of where things are looking, and you get this right here. Current Warriors rotation. Steph Curry, Brandin Podziemski, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Al Horford. Now, in this environment, it assumes, not in this environment, in this graphic, you could say, it assumes that Podziemski is going to be the starting 2 guard, and I don't expect that to be the case. I think Brandin Podziemski will be the backup point guard for this team. I would swap DeAnthony Melton and Brandin Podziemski. Now, this report came out from a couple of days ago, and GSW Ball Report nailed it. Everybody that's on here is signed to the team. There's all the little asterisks, the little stars for the guys that weren't currently signed at this moment. And now the only player on there who's not is Seth Curry, Al Horford, DeAnthony Melton. Those deals are now able to be done since the Jonathan Kuminga situation is handled. We just might have to wait a little bit longer for Seth Curry, potentially November 15th. But you look at this roster, and I'm going to be honest, this is the best I've felt about a Golden State Warriors roster entering a season probably since the 2022 year. I mean, 2023 felt similarly because we didn't lose a whole lot of guys, but 2025 going into this year, I feel great. I think if you put DeAnthony Melton in that starting lineup instead of Brandin Podziemski, I think this is a one-of-one starting lineup in the league. I mean, what are you missing from that starting lineup? An excellent top 5 player in the NBA in Steph Curry. DeAnthony Melton, an excellent on-ball and off-ball defender who can knock down the 3 consistently once he comes back from injury and feels healthy. You hope that's to start the year. Jimmy Butler, scrappy all-star guy. You know what you're going to get out of him each and every night. Draymond Green, looking for his 10th all-defensive team selection. Only a number of guys like Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan have done that. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer. And then you look at Al Horford, an excellent addition, a big man that we have needed for a while, and I feel really confident about what he's going to provide for this team as well. And then you look at the rest of the roster: Buddy Hield, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, Quinten Post. Those are probably the guys that are in the rotation. Gary, Seth, Guy, maybe on nights where we go 12 or 13 deep, or obviously the injuries, the nights where we need guys to fill in for rest, things like that. Those guys will have heavy minutes. But I don't think Gary, Seth, or Guy will be guys that you could expect to have a whole lot of minutes, at least to start the year. I look at this roster, and I feel really confident. I feel really excited about the fact that the Jonathan Kuminga situation is behind us. Sure, the deal is signed, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there will be no more drama moving forward. You hope that Jonathan Kuminga commits to the team like he said he would, and the situation can be fully resolved. I want to know from your perspective. The deal is signed. Pen is to paper. Kuminga is a Warrior once again. But moving forward, how would you like to see this situation play out as the season evolves? Do you want to see Jonathan Kuminga be a heavy load player, maybe even in the starting lineup? Do you want to see us push him to the bench, maybe have Jonathan Kuminga go for a 6th Man of the Year award? He's been working his butt off in the offseason, so I'd love to come in and see him be a dynamic, productive, efficient guy off the bench. Or do you want to see him traded? Do you want to get to a point in the season where his trade value is at a higher level than it ever has been? And do you want to see him dished away to another team? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. So much more to break down on this. Potentially Seth Curry joining the team in a couple of months, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've been Houston Bo. You guys have been the fans. Thank you so much for the support over this entire saga. I can't wait to continue to bring content for you guys as the more news and information drops. Once again, make sure to hit that subscribe button to never miss out on a video. Appreciate you guys so much. Johnny's here. We got Dubs basketball in 3 weeks. Woo! It's go time. Go Dubs, baby. As always, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.